They say shadows are harmless tricks of the light, but in my town, they are patient, and they wait for you to look away. Every blink, every lapse, every moment you turn your eyes gives them power. Every night at 11:47 p.m., the town sleeps, and if you do not, they come closer silently, slowly, watching, waiting, ready to replace you forever. Can you survive a night with the darkness itself once you're gone? Have you ever felt like you're being watched, even when you're completely alone? I used to dismiss it as just a feeling, a trick of the light, but then I moved to Blackwood Creek, and everything changed. It started subtly. A flicker in my peripheral vision. The shadow of a coat rack seeming just a little longer than it was a moment ago. I'd turn my head, and everything would be normal. I told myself I was just tired, stressed from the move, but it kept happening. The shadow of the lamppost outside my window would stretch and twist into impossible shapes when I was looking directly at it. The shadows under my furniture seemed to deepen and crawl towards me. I tried to film it, setting up cameras all over my house. But the moment I'd hit record, they'd freeze. It was like they knew. They only move when they're not being watched. I tried to tell people, the sheriff, my neighbors. They'd just give me this look, a mix of pity and fear. Don't stare too long, one old woman whispered to me at the grocery store, her eyes wide. And never, ever turn your back on your own shadow. That's when I understood. This isn't just my paranoia. It's a rule in this town, a deadly one. Now, I don't sleep. How can I? I spend my days in the brightest rooms, my back against the wall, my eyes scanning every corner. At night, every light in my house is on. But it doesn't matter. Darkness always finds a way in. They're getting bolder. Last night, I saw a hand, long and slender, reach out from the shadow under my bed. I blinked, and it was gone. But I know what I saw. I don't know how long I can keep this up. The real question is, what happens when I finally look away for good? What happens when they finally catch me? Thanks for watching. If you've ever experienced something you can't explain, let me know in the comments. And be sure to subscribe for more strange tales. Stay safe out there, staying awake in cars, but they follow everywhere, moving through darkness, waiting for the moment my attention lapses. I set up lights, alarms, mirrors, to keep tabs on every shadow, but nothing works. They are patient, older than memory, and they adapt. Each night is a test, each blink a risk. The shadows are not bound by walls or doors. They move wherever darkness exists. And the longer you observe, the more you realize that this is not about malice, it is about balance. They enforce it silently, meticulously. I have counted them, traced their patterns, predicted their moves, yet still, each night I wake to new formations, new shapes that defy understanding. Some have tried to fight back with light noise or traps, and they vanish first, leaving only silence. Now, I have a routine, precise and terrifying. I mark my environment, I trace lines, I plan every blink. But sleep is inevitable, exhaustion unavoidable. And when it comes, when the darkness blurs my vision, they are patient enough to wait, to consume, to replace. And I understand that, no one in this town is truly alive at night. We are prisoners of shadows, walking reminders of what happens when vigilance fails. And I have failed, many times, only barely surviving to tell this story. But tonight, I remain awake. I cannot look away, and neither can you, if you want to understand what they are, what they want, and why they will always be here. Watching, waiting for the slightest lapse in your attention. By the fourth week, time stopped behaving normally. Nights felt endless, while days vanished in a blur of exhaustion. The shadows grew smarter, almost curious, as if studying me the same way I studied them. They no longer rushed when I looked away for a second. Instead, they waited, learning my habits, memorizing my breathing patterns, counting my blinks. I noticed they preferred moments of weakness, when my body shook from fatigue, when my eyes burned and vision doubled. That is when they moved the most. One night, I tested something dangerous. I placed a chair in the center of my room and aimed every light toward the walls, leaving no darkness except directly beneath the chair. I sat there, staring at the floor, watching the smallest shadow cast by my own body. Minutes passed, then hours. My mind screamed to look away, but I resisted. Then the shadow stretched, thinning, unnaturally crawling outward, like spilled ink. It did not rush, it grew with intention, forming fingers, then arms, then a shape that mirrored me, except hollow, empty, I realized. Then that they do not come from outside, they emerge from us, from the darkness we create. Panic surged and I blinked. When my eyes opened, the chair was empty. I was standing in the corner of the room, facing myself. My reflection smiled first at night, changed everything. I began seeing people twice, reflections delayed, shadows lagging behind their owners. Conversations felt wrong, voices slightly off, emotions muted. The town felt populated by replicas, not originals. I started marking people, subtly scratches on doors, symbols only I recognized. Some marks stayed, others vanished, replaced by cold stillness. Behind familiar eyes, I confronted one of them, my friend Aaron, asking him to stay. In the light, he agreed, smiling calmly. But when I glanced down to lock the door, he was gone. His shadow remained pressed flat against the wall. Twitching slightly, as if trapped, the authorities dismissed the disappearances, labeling them runaways, accidents, stress-induced delusions. But the hospital filled with patients who refused to sleep, who taped their eyelids open, who screamed when the lights flickered. Many did not last long. Their shadows outlived them. I learned that mirrors could slow the process. Reflections forced shadows to account for themselves to hesitate. Entire rooms became lined with glass bathrooms converted into safe zones. But even mirrors crack, and when they do, the darkness spills faster than before. One night the power went out across the town. No warning, no storm, just sudden absolute darkness. Screams echoed briefly, then stopped one by one. I sat in my room, surrounded by broken mirrors and dead lights, staring into nothing. I felt them everywhere, surrounding me, brushing against my skin, without touching. They whispered without sound, communicating not with words but with certainty. I understood their rule. Fully then watching is not protection, it is permission. They need acknowledgement. They need awareness. The moment you stop observing, they complete the exchange. They take you and something else continues in your place. When the power returned, half the town was gone. The rest pretended nothing happened. People smiled more, spoke less, avoided eye contact. Shadows filled the empty spaces, seamlessly, as if rehearsed. I knew then that escape was impossible. The only choice was endurance. Stay aware, stay awake, stay human, for as long as possible. Because the shadows do not rush, they are eternal, and they are very good at waiting. It started with a flicker in the corner of my eye. A shadow, just a little too dark, a little too still. I blinked, and it was gone. Then I saw it again, draped over my mailman, an inky silhouette where a friendly face should be. The next day, the mailman didn't wave back. His smile was just a painted-on curve, his eyes hollow. He was still there, but he was gone. The shadows are spreading. They latch on to people, replacing them with perfect, empty copies. My neighbor, the barista at my favorite coffee shop, even my own reflection for a terrifying second this morning. I see them everywhere now. These walking voids. They don't seem to notice me yet, but I know it's only a matter of time. I can feel a coldness creeping up my own skin, a darkness gathering at the edges of my vision. I don't know how much longer I have before I become just another shadow on the wall. My house became a labyrinth of light and mirrors. Hallways covered in reflective surfaces. Hallways blocked with lamps and candles burning continuously. Even that was not enough. One night, I made the fatal mistake. I closed my eyes for a brief moment to breathe. That was enough. When I opened them, the room was empty. I was standing in the center of an endless black void. Shapes, familiar yet distorted, formed around me, my family, my friends, the neighbors, all shadows, all wrong. And then I felt it. Pressure, weight, darkness folding in on itself. I understood, finally. The shadows were not killing. They were consuming awareness itself. Every blink, every lapse of attention, gave them life. Every shadow was a memory, a fragment of human consciousness that had been surrendered. I ran, but the void had no corners, no walls, no exits. They merged into one entity, a living blackness that filled every space, every thought, every breath. My mind screamed, but the darkness listened. It whispered promises of peace, safety, eternity. And I knew it was a lie. My final act was to focus, to keep my eyes wide, to stare unblinking at nothing. And then the world returned, my room, my town, everything normal. but I knew it was temporary. The shadows would return smarter, faster, hungrier, and they always do. I now warn anyone who moves here. Do not look away. Do not close your eyes. Never sleep alone. And if you hear the faintest whisper, do not acknowledge it. Watch, watch, because your awareness is the only thing keeping them at bay. Because the moment you fail, they are already behind you.